Welcome to the Inside Silverstone podcast, a business-focused podcast covering all things tech, engineering and innovation. Hosted by me, Chris Broome, a huge tech, motorsport and gaming fan, and also the owner of Longhurst, a firm of lifestyle financial planners and independent financial advisors located in Silverstone, Northamptonshire. This is a series of unscripted and unpolished conversations with leading business owners, thought leaders and high-tech talent where we discuss their experiences within the Silverstone business and motorsport region. We will also be asking them to share their knowledge, insight and their thoughts on the future just for you. If you're looking to learn more about the Silverstone high growth region and commercially connect with like-minded peers, you've definitely come to the right place. Welcome to Inside Silverstone. Welcome to the next edition of Inside Silverstone. My name is Chris Broome and I am your host. Today I am absolutely delighted to introduce our next interviewee. We are now on episode 41, that's right, 41 of Inside Silverstone, and this is episode number 1 of season 3. I finally managed to get on a new friend and also a client of Longhurst, Chris Gorne, who is Technical Director of Envision Virgin Racing Formula E. Chris, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Chris.
Chris, as is customary, as I always start at the beginning of these podcasts, it'd be really good to provide a quick sort of education and career snapshot, if it's possible to do a snapshot with your career, so that we can introduce to our listeners, our wonderful listeners, sort of the beginning and sort of the middle, and where you are basically in relation to career. Is that okay if I run through that?
Absolutely, yeah.
Right, so I got this all off LinkedIn. So obviously correct me if any of this is wrong, but from an education perspective, after school you went to North Lindsey College where you did sort of further education in technology and engineering.
Correct, yeah.
And then you went to Coventry University where you did automotive design and engineering.
It was Lanchester Poly in those days. And in actual fact, yeah, but now it's called Coventry Uni, which got a little bit more kudos. And but it was industrial design in transportation. So it was a little bit different to full-on automotive engineering. It was less engineering and more art-based, which wasn't great for what I ended up in. But the industrial design course was good, and I've met a few guys in racing who have actually done exactly the same. And I think because we were put off by the calculus and the maths, which mechanical engineering was a lot of in those days.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Okay. Career-wise, is really impressive. And even though I'd read this a year ago when we first met, rereading it again, I sat there and thought, my God, you've clearly got a lot of experience. And so if I just briefly run through some of this, and then we can sort of touch on it and come back to it. So like a lot of people that I've met on Silverstone Park, sort of life began at Reynard.
Correct, yeah.
Racing, where you're involved in sort of F3000, Formula Opel Lotus, Formula Ford, Formula Renault.
Sports 2000, a lot of Formula 3 as well.
A lot of Formula 3.
Yeah.
And then you left Reynard.
Yeah, but the Reynard years were incredibly formative. I worked with, apart from the fact that I worked with Adrian, which was a fantastic opportunity. I mean, he gave me the start that any young engineer would love today. And I was straight in the drawing office, but I was working alongside the likes of Malcolm Osler and Gary Anderson, Mark Smith, who's at the back, Andrew Green, who's the technical director. So we were all in the drawing office together, and the amount that I learned off those guys was fantastic, and particularly Gary Anderson. He was he would help. He would help any young engineer with any question. Incredibly formative years.
And provided solid foundation bricks for you to sort of advance.
Absolutely. Well, he gave you the confidence that you knew you could move on and that you understood it. So it was great.
All about confidence.
And the other good thing about Adrian was he would put people, or he wanted his young engineers to go trackside as much as possible. So which gave me I was design office based, and we went wind tunnel testing, but then we started to go trackside. So we went to the races, we went to the tests, and this is all like the late 80s. So no, it was really good.
And then you had a few years working at sort of various teams, including sort of Formula 3, British Touring Car, the equivalent, and World Rally Championship, or the equivalent back then. So what was that like? Because that's clearly different types of cars, different types of racing, different types of surface. What was that like?
I mean, so at Reynard, it gave me a taste because I did get involved in the open wheel cars, but I also got involved with sports cars a little bit. And Adrian also did a little project with the Tolman Group, where they did a Paris-Dakar car,
right.
and that landed on my desk one year. So I got involved in quite a few different disciplines. And that probably gave me the taste to then go out and explore. So I think I left Reynard and I went into sports cars. I did Formula 3. Again, like you say, I did touring cars with Williams. But I always kept coming back to single-seaters. So I've always loved single-seaters and the one-to-one with the driver and the open-wheel cars and the wings. So it's always been my passion. It may have run out a little bit, but it is still there.
Of course. And so after that stint working within those disciplines, as you said, you then went back to Reynard, and then you had a period of time. Is it Panos Motorsports, where you're involved in American Le Mans?
That's right.
Actually winning.
Yeah. We won the American Sports Car Championship, I think, in '98. And in '99, the American Le Mans Series, which was the inaugural year. It was Don Panos. He owned the team, but he also owned the series, and so it was great. He did a lot for sports car racing, and it was sad to see him. It was sad to see that he died only last year. So again, it took me over to America. I was 5 years over there.
What was that like?
It was a great challenge, but also I would say anybody who wants to experience the American dream, that they need to do it. I'm quite happy that I came back, but. Certainly, I think any young engineer who wishes to experience America, that they need to do it and see if it's for them or not. I think the best thing was you would finish work and then you'd go to the lake and you'd go skiing. So it was fantastic.
Nice. Yeah, nice. And so after that, had a period at Team Cadillac, and then Audi Sport, involved in the R8 Le Mans car.
Correct. Yeah.
Which must have been pretty cool.
Yeah, it was good. That brought me back to the UK in 2004, and I had the opportunity. It was Velox Motorsport along with Audi UK, and so I had good drivers. I had Johnny Herbert and Jamie Davis and Alan McNish and Frank Beeler were in the other car.
Nice.
So we were teammates, and that's how I know Alan. But working with Johnny and with Jamie was good. I'd worked with Jamie before in Formula 3 as well, so we had a good relationship. And we were very close to winning Le Mans that year. We led it for 15 hours, blah, blah, blah. I mean, everybody will be laughing at this story because I repeat myself a lot.
Go on.
But it was pole position, fastest lap. We led for 15 hours and we lost the race by 40 seconds. So that is the last time that I've done Le Mans, because I was in tears afterwards. But we still finished second. But I to this day haven't been on a winning car. So that was 15 years ago. So I don't really plan to go back there now.
Okay, understood. I'll move on. You then had a decade or so doing your sort of own consultancy as CG Race.
Yeah, that's right. I was fortunate enough where I'd built up a good enough reputation, and I'd met a lot of good people along the way. So I did a lot of GP2 in the beginning years of GP2, and ultimately I did like 9 years effectively. Yeah. But I also did a similar series called World Series. So I did World Series by Renault as well, and also I did the A1 GP Series. So I did that for the first year with Team France, and we won the championship. Wow! And then I did it with Team Germany and Team New Zealand for the 3 years after that, which was very good because we ran Nico Hulkenberg, and in the New Zealand car we ran like Johnny Reed. So it was good, but dovetailing with that, I was still doing GP2 or World Series, so I was very busy.
Yes.
I was probably doing about 40 races a year, so like 20 race weekends,
Wow.
which is about what the F1 boys do now. So I was very busy, but I just loved to be busy, and it was good times.
Yeah, and successful times.
But yeah, it was good. I was very lucky. But you're only as good as your driver.
Sure.
And I was very lucky to have good drivers.
But I'm sure some of the drivers will say you're only as good as the car.
Well, they might do, but you've got to work together. And so, again, I've worked with drivers who've not been so good as well, and it's been pretty frustrating. Having been lucky enough to work with good drivers, I would say probably David Brabham in the late 90s. When I first worked with David, he gave me the confidence because we worked well together, and we worked well for like 4 years together. And he gave me the confidence that I knew I was doing it right, and then I got with good drivers after that. So it's all about timing and balance and being in the right place at the right time.
During that period where you're doing sort of consultancy, you then, as you said, working in GP2, so that was with Arden International Motorsport. So I've written down 11 wins, 27 podiums, 2 championships.
Yeah, it probably was something like that. I can't.
It's on your LinkedIn bio.
I can't. Yeah, it probably is correct, but I don't follow the stats too much myself now. But yeah, at the end of the day, Chris, that's the only reason I do it, and that's the only reason I get the motivation, and that is to win. So if we win, I feel as though, that's the main reason for turning up.
Sure.
You don't go there to run around at the back, and when you do run around at the back, and you're there for a few days or a few weeks or a few months, it is really demoralising. I think what drives every young engineer on in this business is really to be successful and to win.
Competitive.
Yeah, absolutely. And once you're, or rather, if you're running around at the back, it's really no fun. No fun at all.
In 15-16, you then joined Andretti Autosport Formula E.
Yep, that I did a little bit of work with Venturi at the end of 15, and that gave me a taste for Formula E. To be honest, I was a little bit sceptical to begin with, having been involved with the A1 GP series, and saw how that kind of dropped off, and so ultimately got involved with Formula E through Venturi, and then people who I knew in the paddock, they kept asking me what I wanted to do. And at that moment in time, Andretti seemed like a good opportunity. The best thing about that was I got to work with Robin Freins. And so I met Robin then, and we built up a good relationship. Thereafter, I was lucky enough to be poached by Virgin, effectively. Andretti weren't very happy because I did it mid-season, but I joined Virgin then as the technical director, and that's where I've been now.
So first of all, thank you. That's like from a CV perspective. So for any young engineer out there, but for anybody, that's some seriously impressive race teams that you've been part of. Young race drivers that are now obviously household names in the main, and presumably some invaluable lessons learnt along the way. What I'd really love to understand is, going back to Chris Gorne as a child, what was the genesis behind a love of all things motorsport, single-seater, which you've obviously just said, and what would become engineering and automotive technology?
Okay, well, I suppose what started me on the mechanical side was my father.
Okay.
My father was he was Polish. He came over after the Second World War. He fought in the Warsaw Uprising.
Wow.
So he's my hero. He's my daughter's hero. He's my sibling's hero. But he taught me a lot about car maintenance. He was very frugal. He taught me a lot about how not to spend money as well, which is what you're doing. But also, so he was a great guiding light in that respect. But also how to fix my own car. And my first car was a VW Beetle, but the things that he taught me on how to repair cars and whatever, I was then lucky that my brother, he got the itch as well. And my brother got interested in motorsport. And because he was 8 years older than I was, I looked up to him. And he brought me to my first motor race here at Silverstone in 1973.
Really?
Yeah, we came to the International Trophy. Jackie Stewart won the race in the Tyrrell.
Nice.
Emerson Fittipaldi was on pole position, but he burnt the clutch out on the grid. And that was my first ever race. It was fantastic. I remember it to this day. And those early years, like you say, were incredibly well. Your mind is like a sponge, isn't it? And you take it all in and you never forget it. And 70s Formula One is still my favourite.
Why?
I think really just because that's the age that I really developed a big interest in motorsport. And so I can look at pictures now of starts from the 1970s and I can name all of the drivers. It's really sad, but that's how it is. Like now, you could show me a picture from 5-6 years ago and I wouldn't be able to tell you half of the guys. But so I would say my father got me interested in the mechanical side. First of all, I was interested in the drivers. I was a big Emerson Fittipaldi fan because I was because he was world champion in 72 and then in 74, and I had all the gear, I had all the had the pick jacket. And, I was a massive fan. I just wanted to work in racing, and that's what led me to the engineering side more than anything. But I have to give big credit to my brother really, because he started racing and we did a little bit of go-karting together. And then I used to follow him around, and I used to polish the cars.
Nice.
And there's still guys I know today who knew me from those days when I was like 14, 15.
Really?
Yeah, it's true.
Well, wonderful.
Yeah.
And so the journey into Reynard, how was that? Because obviously going to do further education at Lindsay College to do sort of technology, engineering, automotive, and then obviously the university, the ex-Poly, but it's Coventry University today. What was the stepping stone from there into Reynard, and what tips could you give to anyone younger listening to this who's also thinking about taking that step today? Okay,
so really I was very lucky through my brother again.
Okay.
He was in business with Adrian Reynard.
Okay.
Exactly, nepotism rules. So. I was very lucky, but I'd met Adrian a few times. At the end of the day, I mean, if Adrian thought I wasn't capable, then he wouldn't have given me a job. But I worked in the real world. So I graduated from uni in '85, and I worked for a design consultancy in London for 2 years.
Okay.
But then Adrian, I was lucky because I would spend time with Adrian on a social basis, and he saw how passionate I was. And I think what I look for now when I employ guys is the passion. The passion is everything. Because when you work in this business, it is a 24/7 business. It's not, you can't expect to do 9 to 5, 5 days a week, and then make a thing of it. You've got to put your heart and soul into it. And so now when I employ guys, I look for young engineers who are definitely passionate, or they've got the passion, and are willing to give 24/7. I'm not suggesting that that's what I do with them, but when it comes to the crunch and you're at the track and you're there at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, I don't want them turning up 2 hours or 3 hours later, moaning, say, I don't want to do this. They just get on and they do it. And those guys with that passion and that ambition and that drive are the ones. So that's what I would say to any young engineer at the moment.
Good answer. Career-wise, and we can potentially connect this with Envision, but I've written down here obviously some pre-interview notes, and I put career highlights and lowlights, and so I've written best win, toughest win, most annoying race. So can you answer any of those? Not necessarily with Envision, if there is, but any memorable things throughout your successful career?
Yeah, I mean, certainly best win that is in my mind at the moment has to be last year in Paris when Robin won the race. What you have to understand with Virgin, we're very dedicated, we're very loyal, and loyalty lies very hard at Sam Bird's feet. Effectively, he has been our number one driver, effectively, even though we don't like to call them number one, number two. But Sam has been with the team from the inception, and really nobody has won races for Virgin apart from Sam and now Robin Frines. So when Robin won in Paris last year, it was the first driver to have won a race in a Virgin car apart from Sam.
Yeah.
Having said that, I give Sam a lot of credit because he's been here and it's all about evolution. There's no revolution in this business, and you learn from historical data and everything. And all that data has been with Sam, which helped Robin win in Paris last year. He's got the talent, but ultimately, if it weren't for Sam's hard work over the last 4 years, then we wouldn't be where we are. So Robin's win was very important to me because I'd helped to try and get to get Robin into the team, having worked with him in a previous team. So that was great. You said
So best win, toughest
win.
Yeah, that's
crikey! I don't know. I mean, I think last year again. I can't think that far back because of my age, really, Chris. I would say toughest win. Goodness, let me just say Santiago last year for the boys. I think it was our first race win as an Audi customer team. We beat the Audi works team, which was great, but it was very hot as well. It was an incredibly hot race. Everybody's powertrains were actually derating, and their batteries were derating, or they had to back off a lot to not let the battery get too hot. So the fact that we won that race was great. Looking back in the past, there have been races that I've nearly won that I wish I had. Again, back to Le Mans in 2004.
Sure.
Quite a few GP2 races which were tough, but of late, I have to say the one in Santiago was tough last year, but incredibly rewarding because as a customer team, I know all of my engineers had worked very hard up to that point, and so we were duly rewarded. It was nice.
Presumably the win on the sort of last race weekend last season also very important because it sort of sets the tone for the coming season.
Yeah, I think so. I don't entirely agree with that, but
no.
It certainly was good for Robin because he had a bad couple of races before then, and so he needed to prove a point, and he was in a good position, and that was nice to finish the season on a high.
Yeah.
I don't entirely agree that we're going to carry that through because people have rehomologated their cars. They've got different powertrains. We've got an iteration now on the Audi powertrain for season 6, which we're about to start in November. But I'm not saying that it's not as good, but you never know. And so you should never underestimate. You should never underestimate the opposition.
And presumably that's just the constant challenge, right? It's about incrementally improving the every element of the car by a few percent, season on season, presumably just to stand still.
Absolutely right.
Yeah, and then you've got to increase it even further if you want to move up the grid, as it were.
Absolutely, and so we've been in this for all 5 seasons up to now. You've got the likes of Mercedes who are now coming into it, and Porsche are coming into it, who've not really been in it. Mercedes had like a junior team last year where they learnt from what they were doing. So they're going to be very strong, and you can't take anything away from the might of Porsche. So we are now a minnow, but a very efficient minnow in that field. There are 12 teams, and Envision Virgin Racing are the only customer team who will be going into it the second year. And like you say, we came third in the teams last year. We came third in the manufacturers. So it's a good result, but we have to keep working hard in order to maintain that.
And so, Formula E is relatively new as a race series. Thoughts about the future? Formula E and powertrains and, burning dinosaurs and fossil fuels and the whole point of the exercise. Any sort of opinion on that?
Yeah, but a big opinion. In actual fact, back to when I was at Coventry Uni, my final year project was a hybrid microcar.
Okay.
And so I've always been into small is beautiful, and even though I've been through large V8 engines and V10 engines and screaming, but now it's almost like I've come home to what I really believe in, and I think efficiency and saving fuel and being conservative with our energy over the next 100 years is very, very important. So the future of Formula E, I hope is going to lend itself to what everybody is actually wanting. We're still going to be going racing with Formula E. I don't know whether the internal combustion engine cars of maybe F1, I'm not sure if they're going to be continuing forever. So we'll wait and see. But I think Formula E has a great future. I think it's sending a fantastic message. That there are lots of other electrified cars which are like series. There's a new series called Extreme E. There's going to be electric rallycross. There's going to be electric rallying. So a lot of people are jumping on the bandwagon now. But it's important that everybody has that message and that we do try to look after our planet.
And new countries. I saw that Indonesia is now on the
Indonesia,
calendar.
Yeah, we're going to Jakarta. We're going to South Korea. I mean, with South Korea, they have 3 of the largest car manufacturers in the world.
Yes.
So and they're all doing really good electric projects. So it's great to be going to these places, and we're coming back to London. So we've got New York, London, Paris, and Rome. All of Frank Sinatra's favourites.
Brilliant. Yeah, London will be good, right? And we should look to get a cohort of the Silverstone Technology Cluster members to potentially come down. That would be really good to fly the flag. And talking about Silverstone, so we're recording this interview on Silverstone Park, so opposite Virgin's head office, Envision's Virgin's head office. My company Longhurst is based over the way at the Silverstone Technology Cluster and Silverstone Innovation Centre. So what's it like? For those that aren't familiar with sort of Silverstone and Silverstone Park, what's it like working here? You obviously live down the road. What's it like living in the community in South Northamptonshire? And, why should people consider even coming here?
I think really when Virgin first spoke about moving their base to Silverstone, my ears pricked up. Not purely because I only live 20 to 25 minutes away, but as I said earlier, it's the place I came to 46 years ago, and I have fond memories of this place. I've never lived in Silverstone, but I've worked at Silverstone on numerous occasions, and there's no better place. I mean, it's the hub of the racing world here. And when you think about Bicester, where Reynard were and March were, and all those manufacturers, and you look around where all the Formula One manufacturers are. So this is the hub of the motor racing world, not just in Britain, but there are many, many companies. What it offers in terms of a business is fantastic. Many of the Silverstone Technology Cluster are here because of that reason, because we've got different businesses that we can use and we can all work together. Okay, we don't all specialise in certain areas, but there is somebody in this area who will be able to help, which is the best thing.
Here. So we've covered off childhood and Genesis, we've covered off early career, we've covered off career highlights, we've spoken about Envision Virgin, future of Formula E, Silverstone Park in the region, and obviously life in the area. We've spoken about family and the importance of your father and your older brother. Is your older brother still involved in?
He does a bit of driver management, in fact, for some American drivers.
Okay.
So he's still involved, but he's kicking back a bit now.
Sure. Rightly so.
Yeah, exactly.
The right to do that. So I think we are pretty much 30 minutes into the interview. So I think, because I know you're very busy and you're prepping obviously for the new season. So let me sort of start bringing this to a close. And first of all, by saying thank you for agreeing to come on. Absolutely delighted that you've come on. Before I get into the last two questions, is there anything that I haven't asked or you want to talk about whilst I've got you on and we've got the audience listening? Anything that I haven't asked you that's pricked your mind?
No, not really. I mean, I think the bit that we touched on, and hopefully the younger generation are going to be listening to this, but the passion, ambition, and drive is the important thing for young guys
and girls.
And girls, I'm sorry, yeah. And but the other main thing that I would say is patience as well. And patience is a fantastic virtue. I have young guys who come to me now and they want more money all the time. They want more money because they hear of what somebody else is earning or whatever. And I say, listen, just take your time. Let's just see where we are, but be patient and push. At the end of the day, it's great to do that on the track, but sometimes you can push too hard. And I think patience is a great virtue.
That sort of covers off the last question I was going to ask you, which is about, don't apologise, but eloquently put. You've just said, so it was about life lessons and what would you say to the next generation, to give your younger self a bit of life coaching. So, young Chris Gorne, what would you say? And so passion, but patience, and also presumably ignoring the noise, trying to block out, some of the noise from competitors or peers you may have in the profession or industry.
Absolutely.
You're on your own journey.
I remember being out psyched when I was a young engineer, a young race engineer. You would speak to others in the team, and there was this one guy, and he was so full of it. It was incredible, and he used to tell me things, and I used to walk away from him, and I'd be blown away because I'd think, oh my God, I'm doing it wrong. I'm doing this. I'm doing that. And it just used to be better that I just used to put the independence on and just not listen to him, and blocking out things like that from people you don't need to hear it from is actually good advice as well. Yeah.
Agreed. No matter what profession you're doing.
Absolutely.
I have the same thing within my profession.
I know that.
Just ignore the noise. Yeah, it's all nonsense. It's designed to derail you. So very, very wise. Well, I can get on to the very last question, Chris. Okay. It's my favourite one.
Yeah, I think you're going to
I'm going to put you on the spot. You're going to sink in your chair. But it's one about embarrassing mistakes. And just let me explain why. We're trying to humanise everybody within the park and within the business region and technology region. And so I can't think of anything better than to tell an embarrassing story that everyone can laugh at so that next time they see you, they'll go, I didn't realise that, and whatever. So is there anything in Chris Gorne's locker, technical director, Envision Virgin Racing, that's happened here or in a previous life that you'd be prepared to share?
Oh, crikey. How can anybody say that? It was perfect. No, I mean, that there is a joke, isn't there, where I did make a mistake once. The mistake was I thought I'd made a mistake and I hadn't. Well, that's not me. I've made loads of mistakes, but not one stands out. But the best thing about making mistakes is you learn from them and you move on. Most embarrassing thing, the only thing I can think of recently, or it's not even recently, it was when we were in America and we won Petit Le Mans. This was 1999, and we were quite quick in the pre-race testing, and we were at Road Atlanta, which is where our workshop was. We were at Road Atlanta, and we were quite quick, and we said before the race, if we win the race, because we were up against BMW and Audi, if we win the race, we'll all dye our hair blonde. And there was one guy there who was of Indian descent, and he did dye his hair blonde, but it went ginger, and it was really funny. But I said, no, I can't do that, and I actually shaved my head. And then because I'm a Brit abroad, effectively, I then went into the California sun and I got my head burned. So that was probably an embarrassing mistake.
Sure.
But
turn bright pink, turn like a lobster.
And then obviously when you're on the road with the boys, you do have a few drinks at times, but there's lots of stories like that we can all share.
Yeah.
I don't think that's one for the podcast.
No, we can exclude that. That said, some previous guests have shared some very drunken stories, so but we will pass on that. So, Chris, 33 minutes. Fantastic interview. Thank you so much for sharing the story and the journey so far. Good luck with the coming season. I'll be privately tapping you up for some London tickets, no doubt.
Yeah, I can imagine.
I say with a smile. Yeah. But good luck to the team and all the boys and everyone involved.
Yep.
Thank you for coming on. And for those listening to the podcast, I'll be including in the show notes some links to obviously Envision Virgin Racing's website, so you can obviously check out that, as well as obviously the new race calendar, so you can keep up to date with it. And for any students listening to this, clearly get in touch if there's any questions that you've got for Chris or anyone else that we have on the podcast. Please obviously just send through an email to the email address on the show notes, and we can make sure we pass those questions on and get the feedback back to you in a timely manner. Chris, again, thanks for coming on the show.
It was a pleasure, Chris. Thank you.
The Inside Silverstone podcast is produced by the team at Longhurst for the benefit of those with a passion for all things tech, engineering and innovation. For more information, please visit longhurst.co.uk/Inside Silverstone, whilst also remembering to give us a 5 out of 5 star rating on iTunes. Please note that neither Chris Broome or Longhurst work for Silverstone Park, Silverstone Circuit or Silverstone Technology Cluster.